It was $2.75 for a cup of Earl Grey tea, or I should say a glass or mug of Earl Grey tea. And I like to splash it with a little bit of milk, and it was pretty soothing for me. I never really enjoy to this day hot beverages, but the longer it sat there, it allowed me the opportunity to do my homework and be there longer than anticipating for a normal customer, and I got refills too. So I sat there sometimes, for hours and hours. I remember reading the book Precious, and the movie Precious with Mo'nique and Gabrielle. What's her name? Oh man, I was gonna say Gabrielle Union, but Gabourey Sidibe. You know, I remember her book that movie was based off of this book by the author Sapphire, and the name of the book was called Push. And I remember it being recommended to me by someone I slept with, and I opened the book and I began to read the prologue or introduction, and it's like a paragraph, and I couldn't stop reading. And I read the book from start to finish that entire time that I was in the cafe drinking one glass of Earl Grey tea. I sat there all day reading that book, and it was a lot of other books. James Baldwin's Giovanni's Room and The Rent Boy, Ernest Hemingway's, or any notable author who novel was referenced to me in order for me to gain some type of knowledge and cultural appropriation, and I have a copy of Go Tell It to the Mountain by James Baldwin, but my favorite book by James Baldwin is Giovanni's Room, and I was reading that book while doing my homework at the same time in the cafe drinking Earl Grey tea, and there was a window, a bay window, and then there was a like kind of like a bar, and you would sit on a stool, and you would put your glass there, and I was able to do my homework and everything in front of this window, literally directly in front of this window. So whoever passed the window would see me in the window, and most oftentimes we call it cruising. So I'm on Christopher Street. Whoever passed me by, I'm looking up from whatever I'm doing to see if they're sexy and cute, and I remember it was raining like it is today. I remember it was like a damp mist, and it was raining, and it was very few people on the street, and what I can barely tell because the rain had blocked my view with the trickles of water coming down the window, and the fog from the heat against the window. So I had to like wipe it down a little bit just to see out the window, and I would study for a brief moment, and then I would look up and wipe the window down to see who I see for a few minutes and drink my tea, and then go back for a couple more minutes and study, and one novel that was recommended to me in all this time that I've been going to this cafe was The Picture of Dorian Grey by Oscar Wilde. I never read that in high school. It was like To Kill a Mockingbird or The Catchers in the Rye, or something from Shakespeare, but it wasn't Oscar Wilde. And I felt it fascinating because in public school, whenever we did a test, everybody would read Cliff Notes. Do you know what that is? Do you know what that is? Do you know what Cliff Notes are? Do you know what Cliff Notes are? So they're like a brief, like, description of a book. So you don't have to actually read the book. You could just read the Cliff Notes and know what, and they would actually give you the questions on most tests and the answers, So it's like, okay. And when I read the Cliff Notes to the Picture of Dorian Gray, I was very interested because this man was arrested for being gay and writing this novel that had gay innuendos. He never referenced any type of queer, acknowledgement or anything like that. But if you read between the lines, you can actually see that there was some type of gay, feeling that you felt connected to, that you were inspired by because you felt the same way, and the author, Oscar Wilde, was arrested and put in jail. And I'm not going to go through history because this is all off script. That's the purpose of my confessions. They're just off script, and I'm telling my truth because I don't need a script to read and to alter the truth. I'm going to tell the truth as I remember it and as I recall and as what I know. So this author, I'm sorry, I'm looking ahead of the story and I'm realizing what this man did to me. Give me a minute, please. So, Oscar Wilde was arrested and he was put in jail for being gay. And I hope you children know that because, it's part of your history and part of queer culture and part of gay rights. And I hope you kids know the truth, about where you came from and how easy it is for you to be gay. We didn't have it so easy. We didn't, and this is going back to the 1800s, 1900s. It was an abomination to be gay. So Oscar Wilde was put into jail for being gay, but it wasn't until I actually read the Cliff Notes of the story that I wanted to read about the book. So I had just finished reading Go Tell It to the Mountain by James Baldwin, and so the same dude that I was sleeping with suggested that I read The Picture of Dorian Grey. So I started reading The Picture of Dorian Grey. And I started writing about The Picture of Dorian Grey because I heard all through that time I was so beautiful. I was so sexy. I'm a model, Why am I not taken? Are you taken? I was so beautiful. And it wasn't a day that went by that I did not hear that coming from someone's mouth. Every day someone told me I was sexy. Every single day. So I'm sitting in a cafe and I'm drinking my Earl Grey tea and I just wiped the window down and I'm looking. And this guy passes by on rollerblades. This is the early 90s. So now I'm going to say it's the late 90s. So it was rollerblades and that was the new thing. I can't rollerblade to this day, you know, but I can roller skate. But this dude passed by on rollerblades, and he passed by one time and the next time and then over. Now, I assumed he was doing the same thing that I did on the weekends, which is go up and down, up and down, up and down Christopher Street. But he was on rollerblades. But each time he passed the window, there were times when I didn't like clean up the fog. So he tried to clean up the fog on his end because he knew that I was sitting there. Now I was like, is he trying to get my attention? Like, I don't understand. I'm reading, you know, I'm doing my homework. What do you want from me? You know, and I never paid any attention, but as the days and weeks progressed, he actually knew my schedule and knew when I was going to be at the cafe. And then I would see him, like I said, rolling up and down the street on his rollerblades. And I finally knock on the window one day and I tell him to wait to come in, you know. And he points to his rollerblades. He couldn't come into the cafe because he had rollerblades on. And I guess that made sense. I don't know, you know. But if you can roll up and down the street, why can't you be inside a store, you know, or a cafe? Or at least talk to me briefly. But I had to meet him outside. So I met him outside, and the first thing out of his mouth was, "Are you a model?" And first thing out of my mouth was, "That is the most stupidest, ridiculous pickup line ever. Get the fuck out of my face." He says, "I don't want you. I want to take pictures of you." So I found that like interesting. I'm like, okay, what's your name? He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Mike, you know, and Mike Perez." And I was like, okay, nice to meet you. I'm KC. And he goes, "Yeah, I don't know who you are. It's nice to meet you, but I've seen you over, you know, the months and past periods." I was like, "Yes, I've noticed." And so he was like maybe 38, 39, pushing 40. And he had one of those t-shirts on that would have some stupid like logo on it, like you know, like a message saying like "go fuck yourself," or you know, something to that nature, like "go tell it to the other hand," or something stupid, you know. But it was still comical, you know. And he wore that with like black gym gloves and some black Levi jeans on rollerblades with a black bandana. He kind of reminded me of like someone like that was like biker like, you know, and rode motorcycles, but he was on rollerblades. So in the gay community, we all know like when you greet someone, you go up to them and kiss them, you know, you know. And when I went to kiss him, hello, he reeked of like mothballs, and like his pants smelled like they were like laid out to dry in the living room, you know, on the stairs. And I would come to realize that after going to his house, you know, that he would lay out his laundry on the banister of the stairs. And he says, "Hello, are you a model?" And I said, "That is the most stupidest, ridiculous pickup line I've ever heard in my life. Get the fuck out of my face. I don't want you. I'm going to take pictures of you." And he goes on to tell me about this yellow flower that only grows for 1 week out of the entire year. And he wants to take pictures of me in the background of the flowers, or with the flowers, you know, and wants to do a shoot with me with the flowers. But they only lasted for 1 week. And that week's time was literally the next week. that I was talking to him. So it was like maybe a Wednesday, and then I had to do it on the Sunday when they full bloom, and they last until the following Sunday, and then they die, and you have to wait all year round for the next flower to bloom again. And I thought that was very strange because I'm not into photosynthesis or plants or anything like that. In fact, I had a plant once named Gilligan because it was a palm tree, and I named him Gilligan, and he died. I used to talk to Gilligan all the time, and he died. So I never really thought about it, So I was like, okay, maybe he's right. And he tells me about his house. He had just bought it 2 years earlier, and it was in Cobble Hill, Brooklyn, and it was a 4-story brownstone that he paid only $250,000 for. Do you know it is worth $5.9 million right now? $5.9 million, and he only paid $250,000. Very good investment, my good man. But he takes me to his house, and we get to his house, and it's very beautiful. And there's columns in the living room, and there's a foyer, and there's paintings everywhere. So I immediately knew that this, man that appeared to be very motorcycle-like and thuggish was artistic, and he did actually want to do a photo shoot. So he didn't like me. And that made me want to be more curious and want to look through his house even further. And the more I looked through his house, I saw paintings of naked men and beautiful, paintings and portraits of Michelangelo and David, and there was even one that was from one door on the floor to the next door on the floor, and I can't even tell you how many feet it was, but it was just nothing but the piano keys that you would play for a song from, what's his name, Beethoven. I was like, whoa. Then he tells me I gotta be quiet because his mother's there, and I had to creep up the stairs, and the stairs were so old that every step you took was a creep, so I couldn't do anything. And his mother comes out, and he says, leave me alone, Ma, and we go up to some third floor of his, brownstone, and there's even more portraits of naked men and beautiful paintings and trees everywhere. So then I understood that he was right about the yellow flower only blooming for 1 week within the year, because his bed was like you were literally in the forest. There were trees everywhere inside his bedroom. I've never seen anything like that. Even to this day, there was nothing but trees, and his bed was in the middle of it, and it looked so tranquil and so beautiful and so free, and I thought that was so amazing. And then he points out the window and shows me his backyard and shows me the flowers. Now we're on the 3rd story, so I really can't see what the flower color is. And we go downstairs, he grabs his camera and stuff like that, and he does his thing, and gets all his equipment set up, because this was actual film. This is before you actually saw your picture. We had to wait 3 weeks for the photos to get, set, and wait for them shits to come in before we actually saw them. That's funny. It's true, though. Because here's where I'm getting at. I'm glad I'm laughing because it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So we get to he gets his equipment and stuff like that, and I go outside into his backyard, and I see the yellow flowers, and they're in a bush that is kind of like circular, and then in the middle of this circular bush of yellow flowers was his garden, or what I'm going to say is a garden, because it was nothing but mud and rocks. I didn't see any kind of grass whatsoever, but I did see the yellow flowers and this big apple maplewood tree, and I thought that was strange that he had these trees and stuff like that, but didn't have any grass, but I did see the yellow flowers, and then he goes into further detail about the yellow flowers, and they're only there for, 1 day out of the year, 1 week out of the year, and now is the time to do this, so let's get ready. And he asked me, because I had my book, The Picture of Dorian Grey, with me, and he asked me what I was reading. So I told him what I was reading, and he said, fascinating book. And I'm like, yeah, I find it fascinating too, and it didn't dawn on me, but now I look back at it and realize that that book was the symbolization of my relationship with Michael, or knowing him as a whole. Everything that happened in the book, The Picture of Dorian Grey, happened to me. So, let me get back to my story, okay? Just remember, you're always in the mix with GayTopix. I'm your host, Kenny Cruz, and this is GayTopix Confessions. So, he gathers his equipment and he takes me outside. I see the flowers. He tells me more about the flowers, and I'm really intrigued. And it's overcast day, which many photographers know that's the best time to actually shoot photography, is on an overcast day. And I had a jumpsuit, and remember when I told you the story about the bullet going through the window and it lodged into a wall? Well, when the bullet lodged into the wall, it went through my jacket. And my jacket was a jean jacket I was wearing, and I was very proud of it, because it was the first item that I had that I bought from Macy's when I worked in Macy's. As I told you about with my father, Michael, and see how all this is all coming together, making me the person who I am. Other people's actions have made me the way I am. Other people's actions have damaged me. Other people's actions have made me broken. I need you to understand my story. These are my confessions. So, I'm wearing this jean suit like what J-Lo did when she was on In Living Color dancing. It was like a jeans, and it rolled up at the bottom with some boots and the jean jacket, and I had my bangs. I love my bangs, and I was really happy. People used to make fun of me because of my bangs, but I like my bangs, and I really miss my hair, because when I would have sex with men, they would grab it. They don't do that anymore, but it's been a long time since someone actually even touched me. I'm losing focus of the story, please. So, I get down in the mud, and he tells me to read a passage from the book while I'm in the mud, and I thought that was strange. I'm not gonna ruin this book because I have to return it to the library. So I opened up the passage of a book, and I started reading from it, and he started taking pictures. But after a while, I grew concerned, because I'm here for a photo shoot. I'm not here to read, So I told him perhaps maybe we should do something more different, like close-ups or something. And he said, yeah, maybe you are right. I realize that whenever I've gone, and even in porn and stuff like that, even in the military, I've always had to tell people how to make it right, and when they did listen, everything was fine. Everything was fine. But when they didn't listen, which was most of the time, you end up damaging me and hurting me and destroying me and destroying what little bit of identity and insanity I have. I don't even want to say I'm going insane. I don't want to say that. I don't have a mental illness. I have a problem with people not listening. I'm finding myself repeating the same story over and over and over and over and over and over again, like a broken record, and no one is listening and taking action. It's really annoying. What am I supposed to do? I'm tired, and I put the book down. Back to the story. These are confessions. You need to understand that. So the more I tell, the more I the more I talk, the more I realize what is actually happening and how broken I am. So we laid down, okay, Michael Perez and me, a teenage boy, that he doesn't, I'm thinking he is professional, wants me to lay down in the mud and do a photo shoot. So, me wanting to be the model and person that and identity and how I wanted to live my life. And I was very successful at it until it all went away. And this, like I said, is the consequences of people's actions. I am shit. The picture of getting Cruz, please. The picture of getting Cruz. Okay. I get down in the mud because it had rained the night before, so there was mud and there was rocks. And I get down in the mud and I start taking pictures, and he tells me that he doesn't like my t-shirt, for me to take off my t-shirt and to put the jean jacket back on. So I did that, and we took a couple more pictures, and he kept telling me to open my jacket, and the more I rolled around in the mud, I was getting filthier and filthier. But after maybe about an hour or two, maybe it had to be like 3 hours, he realized he still had the lens on the camera, and we had to do everything all over again. And when we did it all over again, it became more like, open up, let me see your nipples, and let me see your cock. And we finished the photo shoot. And after this time, I'm filthy, and I'm hungry, and I'm exhausted, because it really is very tiring doing something for a prolonged period of time. And your body becomes numb after a while. And I feel that's where I am right now. Is like, I've been doing this all my life. and I'm so numb right now. I'm crying because I've reached a breaking point. That's why I'm doing these confessions. Shit. That's why I'm doing these confessions. These are true life stories. These are actual events that happened to me, Kenny Cruz, your host of GayTopix Confessions. Remember, you're always in the mix with GayTopix. Ooh. I thought that would help. Shit. So, just get to it. Okay. I didn't think this would be so hard. Shit. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Someone who is looking for love and acceptance will find it anywhere they can, even though the experiences that I've had as a teenager and child were illegal by most standards. It shaped me to who I am. I can't change that. And people keep telling me you have a mental illness or you have a mental disease, but I don't. I don't. I watch those shows on Investigation Discovery. In fact, I'm watching one now. I don't. I don't have any evil in me. I'm not an evil person. I just... Shit. I didn't realize it was going to be so hard. Oh. Oh my god, it's so embarrassing. Because I hope that somebody's watching this and seeing the actual pain that I'm in and the life that I've lived as a gay man. So we get back inside the house from the photo shoot. Michael Perez did the photo shoot, and we had to redo it again because he put the lens on, and we had a brief amount of time because the sun was setting, and we had to do it right away so the flowers were in full bloom, and we did it, and I lay in the mud, and I rolled around in the mud, and I was filthy, and he offers to wash. This is what I said. I told you he washed his clothes in the washer and then hung dry them on the banister. So he offered to wash my clothes, I think as a ruse, because you know how long it takes to air dry out jeans? It takes hours, and he had them on the banister, and I had enough at one point and was like, okay, I'm going even with the wet clothes. I don't care, you know. But I look at it now like he used it as a ruse, but here are the clues. He got me dirty in this yard of his, backyard of his, and I was forced to get, you know, in my drawers. So all I had was a pair of boxer briefs and my socks. And I'm walking through his house, and he's telling me to be really quiet because his mother is there. But he's in, like, almost 40, like I said. He's 38, 39. And you have to be quiet because your mom is there. But yet I understood because I lived at home with my mom. And oftentimes I had to be quiet, because if I made a noise, I would get beat or something like that, and I understood it. But as I sit there drinking Earl Grey tea, and he's drinking coffee, Cafe Bustelo, and we're talking about paintings and art, and he's going around the house or the third floor showing me portraits, and he was showing me like literally blocks of wood that he took the grain of the wood and made art out of the wood, of the grains. Does that make sense? Like literally the grain of the wood was like changed to a naked man or a naked body part. I found that very fascinating, and he was very artistic, because I see he took a lot of time and effort into doing his art, and he was an artist. But we're sitting there, and he asked me if he can suck my nipples or pinch my nipples, lick my belly button, and I'm like, what? And then he goes, okay, so maybe we could do some other photos. And he has another, another room that I guess was his, studio, where he had a black drop, or background, and, tripod set up where I could take, photos on this backdrop. And I was like, cool, I'm naked, it's okay, I'm in my drawers, no worries. But as we started to take pictures, he became more and more closer to me and sexual, aroused with me. In fact, I notioned to him that he had a hard dick, and he goes, sorry, but I really like it. I just want to suck your nipples. And I go, no, that's not going to happen. I'm here professionally. I'm here to do a job, and you asked me to take photos, that's what I'm doing. This right here is not even supposed to be happening. We're not supposed to be sitting in your foyer, whatever the fuck you want to call it, having tea and coffee, or taking additional portraits. Where I was supposed to do a specific thing, and now you're taking up my time because my clothes are still wet, and he somewhat gets offended, but he understood, and I'm assuming he respected it, because as I continue to know this man, he became a friend, and he became a friend for a very long period of time. But at that time, I don't think he understood what friendship was, because he was so infatuated with me. And I told him I was leaving for the military, and I had to go, and I was going to be gone for a while. And he said that was fine. You can come pick up your pictures next week. And because whenever I did a photo shoot with someone at that time, in the early 90s, late 90s, 2000s, I always asked for copies of the pictures, so that was part of the contract, and he told me I can pick them up. And I went back to his house the following week, and there was no answer there. I'm calling and calling and calling and calling and calling and leaving voicemails. And, hey, this is Mike Perez. If you're calling about a design or photo shoot, please leave a way to get in touch with you, and I'll be back with you as soon as I can. I even know the message to heart because I called him so many fucking times. Oh. But I had to go. My orders were telling me to go. I was now being deployed. So I left it alone. As I said, when I adopted Bill Clinton in 2000, I came home on an exodus. That's when I adopted him. And on that exodus, I went to my Aunt Renee's house and kept knocking, and no one was there. Or they were there, but they wouldn't open the door for me or anything like that. I actually went to Michael's house, and Michael was there, and he welcomes me in his house, and I say hello to mother, but I only remember her very briefly, so I just wave, and we go upstairs to the third floor, and then he puts a blindfold on me, and he walks me down to the second floor, and I was kind of scared because I didn't know where I was or what was happening, but why was this blindfold even on me? But he takes me to his he made the second floor like a grand like cocktail like space where there's a mini bar and there's a pool in the floor and there's portraits all around and columns. It was so beautiful. There was like a pond in the floor, I was wow, but I was blindfolded and I didn't see all that until I took the blindfold off. But when I walk inside, he positions me and tells me, "Okay, are you ready?" And I go, "For what?" He goes, "You'll see." And he takes the blindfold off, and there's a portrait from floor to ceiling of me. I was like, whoa. Again, the coincidence of me reading the Picture of Dorian Grey at the time that he actually took this portrait made me feel like it was honor, the most respectful and noble thing somebody has ever done for me. Like, he literally had to like focus on every single mole or wrinkle or freckle on my body and face to make this portrait, this beautiful portrait full of yellow flowers and me in blue, and my lips are so red, and I was so floored. I was like, this is beyond beautiful. So I didn't know if that was his way of trying to get me to say, okay, yes, we can be boyfriends, but I was already gone for 3.5 years. So what how can we be boyfriends, And I thought it was so it was really, really a beautiful piece. It really is a beautiful piece because it still exists. It is a beautiful piece. And I knew this man had liked me sexually and wanted to pursue me romantically. But I could not do it. I could not do it because I did not see him like that. I saw him as a friend, and I specifically said, if I were to actually date you, and after a while of dating you, it doesn't work out because I'm telling you it's not going to work out, you're going to leave and disappear. So I'd rather you be my friend and still be in my life. And he remained in my life. And we would talk every day for 22 years. 22 years. The portrait even hung in the Museum of Modern Art for a week. There was an art show and everything. I couldn't believe it. But each time that I went back to see Michael, the portrait had been altered. And it bothered me because I made notation of it because I told him, like, the date, because like the Picture of Dorian Grey, the day he sat down for the portrait was going to be at his most beautiful. Like, he was the most sexiest at that time. And it's, as years progress on and on, you will always remain youthful and beautiful in the portrait. But what I was seeing was it was altering, like I had been sinning or committing murder or doing something horrific or something ritual or negative, but I look at it now as his revenge because of me not wanting to date him. So every time that he did something sexual or tried something sexual and I turned him down, he would alter the portrait. And each time he would make me uglier and uglier and uglier. I had now come home, 10 years, after serving, and the portrait was just, it looked so different. And I have evidence I can show you. It looks so different. And again, reminded me of the novel, The Picture of Dorian Grey. And I think he knew that and knew what he was doing because he told me and spoke of many times about the Santeria and all that bullshit. So perhaps what is happening to me is being displayed in the picture of Kenny Cruz? Is it? I don't know, but to this day, that portrait is still altered. It is ugly. It is not as what it was, or what I remember it to be hanging in the Museum of Modern Art. Even his friends had told me that he had told them negative things about me so they won't pursue me romantically, i.e. ruining my chances of actually meeting someone that could possibly have been my husband or boyfriend. And that really offended me because he was like focusing only on himself. As I said, I think that's why he did the portrait, was to impress me. But it didn't work because I didn't see you in that demeanor. I didn't see him like that. I was not sexually aroused to him. I was not. But I did value my friendship. And I took great pride in being there for him. And I was very loyal to him when he needed someone. His cat died, and we literally had a funeral in his backyard. And guess who did the service? I did. I provided the burial and everything like that. He was going through so much depression that he even offered to sell my portrait. And I don't remember what he was asking for, but he said there was a note that he had written on the back of the portrait, so if anyone will actually look at the back of the portrait, they would know the value of the portrait. So I don't know. I was there for him for so many things. And then when things hit me, the phone call stopped. I began to see him maybe once a year, if that. But I still remained committed to my friendship with him because of this noble act of creating this piece of art. And also, I wanted to see that picture continue to be altered. I wanted to see if my eyes were fooling me. But I mentioned it so many times. I was like, something's wrong with this picture. It wasn't like this before. And he was like, yeah, I'm still working on it. Well, it's 10 years later. What are you still working on? And the portrait just kept getting altered and was so... I can only imagine what it looks like now. Probably so ugly and hideous. Like the picture of Dorian Grey. Oh.
Michael went through boyfriends, you know, like crazy, like every gay man does. And he went through boyfriends, and he finally meets the one and then stops communicating. I understand you're in a new relationship. I understand that. And I'm not trying to take that from you, but you have to realize something that I'm so used to doing as routine and normal, you took away from me. We used to talk every single day on the phone. We used to talk every single day. Oh my God. And he did not for once, not for once, acknowledge what he was doing to me, or even the fact that he will miss me. It's 7 years now since then, and it's been a long time, and that's it. I can't no more. I can't. Oh. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share. Hope to see you soon. But until now, I hope you enjoyed the picture of Kenny Cruz. I'm your host, Kenny Cruz, and this is GayTopix Confessions. These are real life, true, actual, factual events. There's nothing fabricated or fake about my stories. My stories are my confessions. Remember, you're always in a mix with GayTopix. Have a blessed night.